All right, I'm gonna be going over my plays through the recorded matches that are recorded through MTGO for Game 4. Again, I thought that I understood why sometimes the game stopped recording, but unfortunately, I still have not completely figured that out. So, it might actually even be better to go over my games, after the recording, after the fact. That could also open up the possibility for me to maybe select the leagues where I think that they are most viewer friendly. Probably with an emphasis more towards the ones that I get trophies in or do particularly well or that are particularly interesting games. But yeah. Anyway, until I figure out exactly what it is that's causing this, um, yeah, at least this post game commentary can still be hopefully of some interest and value. Oh, and by the way, thank you so much for Lord Magicus, if that is how I pronounce your name. Thank you for recommending that VSDC free video editing software, because I've actually been using that to edit the two games that I review, 2 or 3 games, in a match that I review together, because the software I use seems to fixate on particular screens, so I actually have to record 2 or 3 separate videos, and instead of having to upload them all separately to YouTube, which doesn't really make a lot of sense in my opinion, I was able to use that software to splice them together into one nice video for each match, and yeah, thank you very much for that. Unfortunately, I can't seem to use that though to record my actual game. It seems to kind of lock the screen into place, and it won't really let me do anything while it's recording. I'm not sure. I'm sure I'm probably just not using it correctly, but at least so far, using this other video capture software I'm using, and then using the editor that you recommended to edit from there, I think will probably be pretty good. Of course, hopefully I find out why this one stops recording. I'm sure it must be something about how I'm clicking or something. Um, it's also possible that maybe I don't see the bar up here, and maybe I accidentally click the stop recording button. That seems unlikely, but well, anyway. Let's go to the match now. But I do appreciate that. This was a pretty easy keep. Obviously you would like if you had Aether Vial in these type of hands, but at the same time, a lot of decks are more attrition based, and yeah, just having card advantage, having card selection in the form of Smogos Copter. I've really been liking Smogos Copter, obviously, and I think we'll see its value quite a bit here. My opponent seems to be on a mono white devotion deck of sorts, and I remember trying to convey that actually I do think that white in general, but mono white in particular, seems like it might be a bit unexplored. I do remember I did actually try playing a mono white deck for a while ago. I mean, over 5 years ago. Um, and that was before Stoneforge Mystic was unbanned. But there's actually a lot of powerful options in mono white, like for example, Ruined Halo. There's also Nevermore, I remember. But anyway, enough about that. Uh, yeah, so I actually dug for Dismember there. I played the Silvergill Adept first because I put them on some type of Heliod combo, obviously. I mean, you could in theory play Heliod without the combo, but here they present Walking Ballista. Pretty clearly they're on the combo. Dismember kills Heliod because it's state-based effects. It seemed like that was the best play to make, is try to go for the Dismember. And of course, I was able to get there. And you see here, I keep attacking with the Smuggler's Copter, even though it's not dealing damage, just because sculpting my hand is just so powerful. And it's not like I'm losing out on damage. I'm tapping creatures with Summoning Sickness. And the opponent has been using Walking Ballista as like an overcosted removal spell. And I think that's pretty good for us. I think they kind of have to, because they're in danger of getting overrun. But as we're going to see, we're kind of overrunning them anyway, as is. It might not have necessarily been correct yeah, actually, I'm really not sure, because the opponent's in a tough spot here. Yeah, and actually the opponent, I think the opponent, did like to see a number of my results, and it was a very pleasant game, and of course I will show the next game as well. But I'm definitely interested to hear your perspective as well about this match. This game in particular, I think you know, I think I was kind of lucky to draw the Dismember, and you know, probably this game would have been a lot more interesting, like as we'll see the next game becomes, if the Heliod stuck around a little longer. Although obviously if it stuck around for, you know, two or three turns later, then you would have had the combo online, and that would have been that. So there is that. But yeah, so let's go to the next game, and I'm going to splice it together, and you know, let's see how the next game goes. All right, so match 4, the second game, and yeah, so this game is actually going to be a lot more interesting. I mean, that first hand, there's not a lot to say about it. There was no land. That was an easy mulligan. No even force negation, I don't think. You know, could have been in there. Again, it flashes pretty quick. Here, this was a pretty easy keep. I mean, it's got Aether Vial. It's got Smuggler's Copter. You know, that alone gives me the ability to sculpt my hand a lot, and most likely have good plays for the rest of the game. And I do play out the Smuggler's Copter. You know, I do find it interesting that the opponent named Lord of Atlantis, but I guess that is one of the cards I'm likely to play as a 4 of. But the one interesting thing though is I'm not necessarily always attacking with it as much as I'm attacking with the creatures it pumps. But yeah, so you know, the second Aether Vial is pretty much dead. The Fairy Conclave turned out to be pretty free there. That's definitely nice. I can tap down Heliod, which does turn on because of this high devotion count. I have a pretty good attack here. Again, I start attacking with Smuggler's Copter. You know, here I even lose out on a point of damage because it, you know, obviously it's just like drawing an extra card here to get rid of all these extra islands. And I did choose not to attack with Fairy Conclave because I could have drawn Deprive is one of the main things I was hoping to draw, but I also could have, you know, maybe even drawn another Smuggler's Copter or you know, or who knows. But you know, so here actually I make an interesting play and I decide to bounce Heliod. The reason why is because it's the most expensive card. You know, like I'm not necessarily doing anything else with my mana anyway. It opens me up for a clear attack. It possibly sets them back a turn for any combo they might have, like with Walking Ballista. It just felt like, you know, that was the best use of Repeal right there. Unfortunately, this does, you know, if I would have gone after the Giver of Runes, then I would have had the Dismember available here. But the good news is my opponent does not actually have Walking Ballista. That was just a misplay, and actually I commented on it at the time. I was I kind of got lost in the commentary a little bit. You know, I was kind of explaining how, in a way, I'm kind of like a Spike Johnny in a sense, because I just really like tinkering with new things. But I was also kind of explaining how I'm also kind of a Timmy in a sense, because in a very tiny way, at least because I really like these interesting games where they're back and forth, you know, and I just kind of got lost in the discussion of that. And you know, here, thankfully, I was able to deal with the Giver Runes and immediately draw a Dismember after that. This is kind of where the game turns around. The opponent had an opportunity to combo cleanly, but you know, unfortunately, that didn't pan out for them. So I end up having a bunch of creatures, but actually, here's where the game gets interesting again, because they have massive devotion, and they end up with a massive Walking Ballista. And this is where the game, I think, gets particularly interesting. So I just attack, you know, just because I need to cycle this Oboro. I wait until it successfully attacks, and I turn off the yields so that you know, I will only bounce it if I can pitch it. The opponent can keep pumping the Ballista, but the good news is that I have this Merfolk Trickster to trip it to take it down. I mean, to tap it down. And yeah, so really what's happening here is I'm trying to get in good attacks and get my opponent down as much as possible, because my opponent is succeeding quite a bit in stalling. You know, the interesting thing though from my opponent's perspective is I am dead actually to one attack from Walking Ballista, because once it connects, if it stacks all the counters, then I am subject to losing then. So here I made a little minor misplay as well. I could have played the Mutavault and I could have tapped it and you know, used it to crew. But look, I draw Lord of Atlantis anyway, and so it turns out that it wasn't actually a misplay. So you know, and actually I think my opponent even saw that possibility, so they killed the Lord in response. Yeah, and you know, the opponent is definitely putting up a good fight, but here, you know, I am able to get them down to 2. Not sure if maybe they should have blocked with the champion. It seems kind of like hard to justify doing that on their side. But getting them down to 2 puts me in a position where all I need to do is draw anything to deal with the Walking Ballista, and I can cleanly connect with the Fairy Conclave. I draw the Repeal, and yeah, and then that ends up being the game. And yeah, and you know, I remember there was friendly banter with the opponent as well. This game actually ended up going a bit longer than maybe I would have liked. As we can see, I'm down to 3 minutes. That was really, you know, I don't think I'm ever going to get this carried away with a combination of banter and maybe a little unnecessarily drawn out commentary. Some of which, you know, it includes me having this memory of this big game against humans where I did a massive swing with a huge army of Merfolk. They did a massive block with a huge army of humans, and my opponent, or I said something like epic Lord of the Rings battle or something like that, and the opponent said but now it's the age of the humans, and um, you know, and I kind of got a little carried away with a commentary like that. But you know, hey, I ended up getting to share that that little story too. And you know, that was just to illustrate that maybe there's a little bit of Timmy in all of us, because you know, I think deep down inside that's why a lot of us probably got into the game originally. I know I did. One of the first games of Magic I ever played, actually, there was like the board cluttered with lots and lots of creatures, because you know how beginner players are. They tend to play decks with lots and lots of creatures and not a lot of spells. Um, you know, and you know, it was kind of reminiscent in a way that that one game against the humans player kind of turned out very oddly similar to one of the first games of Magic I ever played. Um, so yeah. Anyway, this was a very interesting game. I do have a lot of respect for people trying to explore new archetypes. So you know, I hope you can turn this into something really special, Chiquito. And oh yeah, Chiquito. My opponent also express interest in learning more about my decks, and so I did tell him or her about my YouTube channel. So if you do see this, I am very interested to hear how exactly your perceptions are from your side of this matchup and how it played out. If you have any regrets about what you played, I pointed out a few instances which might have been misplays on my part. I don't think in the grand scheme of things that made a difference. I think in game 1, the main thing was drawing that Dismember when I needed it. Otherwise, I think I would have been comboed off. You know, and in game 2, I'm definitely very interested to hear what you have to say if you're watching this, because I don't necessarily think you played that wrong, but I can see how it could be kind of close sometimes in holding on to the ballista to try to get good blocks, but also feeling under a lot of pressure if my lords get out of control. So yeah, but overall this was a good game. Hey, I'm 3-1 now. You know, let's hopefully get the 4-1 with Merfolk, which would be a good turnaround from the last unfortunate disappointing league. So let's get to it.